Okay, questions please. Yes, Terry.
All right, this is probably, well, these are questions that people give me to ask because they couldn't get here, but this is probably for Abigail and Brett. The role of mayor is a 24/7 job. So how are you going to work in your business and do the mayor job too? So, Brett? All right.
So obviously I knew that I was doing this, and I have my family's full support, and I've also trained somebody to be me in the business, should I be successful, so.
Yep, pretty easy.
Yeah, thanks, Abigail. Thanks for the question. I'm pleased you asked that because it's something obviously a lot of people around the South End are thinking about in terms of me. Look, I've spent 20 years developing my accounting practice to the point where my staff now run it very efficiently. We've got 200 clients who are all mostly local farmers, and they're very well educated in their processes. So I'm very confident that I can fulfil, the role of mayor very effectively. I'm also a person that's learned through my business experience to work strategically on the big rocks, as I mentioned. We have very good divisional councillors. The people don't necessarily need to see me all the time, but I will be in the community a lot. But when I'm not doing that, I want to be in Canberra, Brisbane, Sydney or Melbourne, bringing back opportunities to this region. And that's where I think I can work, perhaps leverage my time to work more strategically. At the moment in my office, I go home at basically 11 o'clock, and it's basically I have to make a call on whether I go back and do cancer charity work, and walk the highways and raise money for skin cancer, or whether I go and do something for our local community. This community's done a hell of a lot for me and for my family. So for me, giving 40, 50, 60, 70 hours a week is something I've done all my career, and I'm sure that I can find that time now to do it with the way my office is structured. Thank you.
Dedicating most of my time to going around the region and talking to people. So I'm a free agent at this point. My husband is quite independent. He's learned how to cook and clean. My children are 30, 22 and 21, so they're off out in the wide big world. So I don't have any of that. And I don't even have to feed the pets anymore because they're free ranging on the farm and can do it themselves. So I basically have as much time as I need to give to the role.
For Brett, this donating $20,000 a year of your pay to charity?
Yep, I'm happy to do that.
Yep.
I wasn't going to mention it because I didn't want to see it as vote buying. It's not vote buying, okay. I've already committed $4,000 to the Proston Rodeo, which is a new event because that community out there is struggling. They need events. We're not going to bring industry to Proston, but tourism is the answer for them, and they know that. So I've nominated that. I think Kathy Duff set a really good trend in this area. Kathy gives a lot of her own money to it. And Paul Antonio 3 years ago, when the mayoral pay rise was announced, said he didn't want the extra money, he didn't need it. He'd give it back to the community. I've never forgotten hearing that in the radio. At that stage, I had no intention of doing this. But my mind went back to Paul saying that in the radio. So it's not vote buying, but I do intend to do that. And I've also pledged $4,000 to the Mergen Men's Shed for their Mavis van, which is for mental health for men. And I haven't found anything on Ango yet that I was going to support, but I was going to talk to Jane. So look, that's not vote buying, that's why I didn't mention it tonight. But it's just something that I can do to give back to the community, where I know our community groups are struggling to raise money. And I believe that, the mayor gets paid well enough, and that if I can't find 20 grand out of my pay, pre-tax, then there's something wrong. Thank you.
So will you be doing that if you're not elected?
No, that's no. What I've said is that if I'm elected, I will be doing that. I can assure you I already give $20,000 a year to skin cancer. I've had 2 melanomas, and as you probably all know, I walked 500 kilometres on the highway a few years ago to raise money. It's the biggest killer of young people under 35 in this country. And I've done a lot of work in that space. I'll probably give 20 grand a year already for that, and I want to continue doing that because that's my priority. Okay?
Very good.
Right. There's going to be, there's 50, 60, but yes.
I got one.
Do we take any notice of someone who supports Collingwood?
It's probably for the three new ones standing, because my thoughts are whole of Shire as opposed to divisions, please. What are your thoughts on it?
Good girl. Couldn't agree more with you.
Okay, thank you. It's obviously been raised before and it didn't get off the ground because we are still divisional. So, as what we got.
For voting. Are you talking in terms of governance, or are you talking in terms of...
No, Division 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Sometimes when there's 6 6 councillors, Mayorals have the casting vote if something comes up. I would like to know how you stand on whole of Shire as opposed to divisions, please.
Good question.
I just don't understand your question.
Yeah.
No, I don't understand.
Oh,
your
I-
question.
No, the
No,
question
I'll have
is,
a go,
like,
but yeah.
let's, you know, just so you get this right, because this is pretty important. Our neighbouring,
Western Downs.
no, Somerset, they're whole of Shire.
Absolutely.
What does whole of Shire mean?
All right.
It
Like
means
no
that,
division.
it means that, instead of
No
being
divisions.
division,
There are no divisions.
there are no divisions.
So you could have 6 people in Kingaroy running our council with the mayor, as opposed to Ros that lives in Division 1, representing Division 1, Spud in sort of that, doing 2, you know, a couple in
And who
Kingaroy.
changes that decision? Who
Council
decides whether it's
votes, no?
divisional or?
Council.
Council.
Council,
Okay.
new councillor.
Now I
Sorry, I
understand the
didn't put
question.
it across well.
It's all right, I might be just slow, it's all right. We'll work
So
it
I
out.
would
Liz,
like-
keep talking,
Sorry.
we get it out.
Before that question's put, but the other, when you said you could have 6 standing in Kingaroy, but also the other point of having whole of Shire, you might have 2 candidates standing in Nanango and only 1 can get in, and they may be 2 great candidates.
That's
And in Kingaroy, you might have, you know, one bad one that you'd
One.
You
rather.
could have 3
One.
running in Kingaroy
Yeah.
that are all,
Yeah, that's
and I'm
right,
using Kingaroy because
Yeah.
it's a neighbouring town.
because we don't
You
like
could
it.
have, yeah, we don't. So you could have 3 that aren't as good as
Yeah,
our
that's
2.
right.
Anyhow,
One of
listen,
them
that's
get in
right.
and we
Jane,
lose
you're
one.
not answering the bloody question,
But-
so.
So Barry, I'm clarifying what the
Yeah,
question
okay,
is.
right, Keith.
Thanks.
You probably can speak to it because you can see
Yeah.
why we didn't do it last time.
It is a matter that comes to the chamber for decision. The reality is that the majority of people at this stage believe that if they have a representative in their particular area, they can represent the issues and the matters of concern that are pertinent to Mergen, to Nanango, to Blackbutt Maidenwell, to Kingaroy. Now, there is a growing feeling, I have to admit, that people want to do away, well, there are some people who'd like to do away with the divisions and just have a whole of Shire situation where you have 6 councillors that may all come from Kingaroy, or may all come from Nanango, or may all come from Blackbutt, or wherever. Now, that is a decision that needs to be thought about really earnestly by the ratepayers within the region. If you feel comfortable that if there were, say, 6 councillors from the Kingaroy area, that they can honestly represent the wishes of the entirety of the region, that's fine. But the reality is that the South Burnett Regional Council is an amalgamation of 4 former councils. Each of those areas has a swimming pool, a hall, playgrounds, parks, gardens, the whole works and jerks. And I believe personally that we as a South Burnett region pay a level of additional cost in our rates because we are maintaining all of those assets throughout the region. Now, personally, I don't have a problem about that. It does come up for discussion within the council chamber at times. You know, what about, reducing the number of halls we have, or the number of pools, or those sorts of things. So long as people understand that by maintaining, those number of halls, such like, halls, swimming pools, and all those other services that are provided. Because the fear is, the risk is, that if there isn't divisional representation, people in Mergen, Wondai, Proston, Blackbutt, Nanango won't get their say in the same way that they are getting now, versus if there were a cluster of councillors all from the one area.
I concur, sorry. I'm in favour of divisions at this stage because our region is so geographically spread out, and having been across the region speaking to people in all of the towns, amalgamation has possibly not gelled us together as well as we needed to be. And I think your divisional councillors at this stage are doing a reasonably good job
Yeah.
of bringing your
I agree.
matters to the table,
Yeah.
and they're discussed. I don't think any region has missed out on any funding. I don't think any region has missed out on representation on any issues that are pressing. So I really think that a whole of Shire
Thank
is
you.
not what we're after at this stage.
However, once the councillors are in, they're really voting for the whole of Shire. Once, it's not,
No, they
it's,
don't. Oh, well,
they do. If you vote whether you're going to shut down a pool, it's not only Ros that has a vote. All the
Yeah.
councillors vote on whether you're going to do it. Once you get in there, so if the other councillors disagree on something that affects Nanango, the Nanango voters have no recourse to vote against those councillors. They can only vote against our division councillor, who may be doing their best job, but they have no say in what the other people vote for. So if I'm a councillor from Kingaroy, I can really, it doesn't matter to me what Nanango want, because you can't vote me out. I've only got to make sure that I keep.
No, I just
Kingaroy.
want to know whether
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
exactly what Tony said.
Yeah.
She's in favour of
Yeah.
keeping it as division. Keith seems to appear to be in favour.
At
That
this
is what,
stage,
that's
yeah.
my question. I
Did
want
you
to know
want my
whether.
answer?
Yes,
Yep.
I do.
Well, my answer is that I'd support both other candidates in saying that the divisional system will work best for us. I believe our small towns won't be represented effectively if we go away from divisions.
Right, thank you.
And in addition to that, also be aware that the Local Government Act makes it extremely, very clear, pointedly clear, that these people who are elected as divisional councils have an overarching responsibility to represent the region in their portfolios. So that is dealt with under the Act.
Yeah, and if I can say, that is a very good point. Councillors who, you know, I try very hard, and I'm sure my council do as well, to have a totally unified region. But there is a lot of pride and, you know, to some extent a degree of parochialism in the regions, and I think that's good. You know, people who live in Nanango are proud and happy with what happens in Nanango, and that's part of the effort and the you know, what makes Nanango you know, the town that it is. It's what makes Mergen the town that it is. That it is. If you start to weaken that structure, I think you start to pull down the fabric of those towns. Mind you, there are a number of people who are asking the question that you asked. Why can't we do away with divisions?
I don't want to do
No,
away.
no,
Oh.
sorry. Okay, there are people who, but there are people who have asked. There are people who have asked. So there is another view in the community, but it has to be properly analysed.
I don't have a go, if you got anything to say.
Well, I guess I can see it from both sides. Definitely when I stood for Division 3, I felt that
Abby,
divisions
stand up, I can't see you.
only make us feel divided. I don't like the term divisions, whether or not we could change it to a different term or whether, but I do feel that the general term of it makes us feel like we can't unite because it has to be someone from this region, which is incorrect. The information is incorrect. You can actually stand in any division that you so choose, but historically we have never let anybody from a different region be elected, not in a division.
Until
So,
now.
yeah, but like,
Until this time round.
you can't,
With Rhonda.
yeah, Rhonda's not standing in her division. But what I'm saying is historically, the people have never let a person not standing in their division be elected. So, what Jane is saying is why the question always comes up, because the votes are weighted the same. So your councillor in Kingaroy, that vote for whatever they're discussing is as important as your councillor from Nanango. So you should be able to access all divisions. And then you have occasions where people feel like they can't stand because there's somebody unbeatable in their division. And that's why that discussion keeps generating, well, can't we do away with it? And generally the feedback is, we hold on to our individual towns and villages identity, and we're not ready. We're not ready, in my opinion, to get rid of divisions.
Yeah, mate.
Yeah, I've been coming here for the last 12 years or more, and I've seen, I'm not sure the particular, this is a roads situation. Every time I go to Kingaroy, I think it's just past the sale yards. There's a culvert that comes under the road, and at the I can't, near where the school is, with the every time that there's a massive downpour of rain or a deluge, the creek comes along the road, then does a right turn, goes under the road, then does a left turn, and just washes the bank out. Now, every time there is a massive amount of rain, the trees, the roots of the trees are just waiting to fall. Now, just recently they've had a
What's the
tree
question,
come
mate?
down.
What's the question?
The question is, I'd like to know from the floor what they intend to do to divert that particular road or that structure without someone's going to get killed by a tree falling.
Is Spud still here?
Okay?
Well, look, I'll make a comment. I mean, this is an issue that's happened there time immemorial, more or less, although probably in the last 3 years there was a new drainage system that was put in place. Coincidentally, I was talking about that issue today with Councillor Danita Potter. It's a Transport and Main Roads road, right? So it is not a council road per se, and it's an issue of the volume of water that comes off the neighbouring properties that converges into this location. There has been an attempt to remedy the situation. Now, I don't believe that there has been any volume of water accumulated in the most recent rain, and it would be maybe a couple of years ago or pre the widening of that drainage system that's there. It is full of grass at the moment. One of the issues would be, or should be, to keep the level of the height of the grass down so that when water does flow through there, it's not being slowed down by the the height of the grass. I acknowledge it is a problem, but it is one that is really beyond the realms of the South Bennett Regional Council to remedy totally, although we represent that case with Transport and Main Roads as well, and do whatever we possibly can do to help. There's at least 1 or 2 property owners in the little village of Coolbunya that do get a level of water, if not in their houses, very close to being in their house.
Thanks, Pete. I don't think, I'll get to you in a minute, Kirsty. I don't think it's fair to ask the other 3 candidates to answer that question, to be perfectly honest with you. I really don't. All right, Kirsty, your go.
Thank you. I recognise being Mayor of the region is an enormous job, it's a big job. And I would like to know, as a person, what your core values are and why this job is so important to you.
What keeps us busy?
All of you.
Okay, look, I'm a person who happily loves and enjoys working with people. I enjoy leading a team of people. I have had 40 years worth of experience in my previous employment as the General Manager of Bean Growers Australia. I don't have all the answers to every problem, and I don't believe one would reasonably expect that the Mayor should. What one would expect the Mayor to do is not to have the view that it is all his way or the highway. The issue is to work collectively and collegiately with the the staff and the executive team that supports us. The reason why I continue to do what I do is that I actually love doing what I do. From an aspirational point of view, the issue of becoming the Mayor was one that wasn't something that I necessarily felt as though I had to do. When the door opened, that created the opportunity. I put my hand up, and I can assure you that being the mayor is probably the most fulfilling experience of any of my career highlights. I love working with my council team, with the executive team, and I love working with the people who represent the region. They don't always agree with me, and there are some who are opposed to our points of view, my point of view. That's fine. That comes with the territory, but it is not sufficient to cause me to say, oh well, you know, bug you all, I'm going to run away. I'm not a quitter. I simply love doing the work that I do for and on behalf of the residents of the region.
So my core values, I'm hoping that all of the committees that I have worked with in leadership roles, that people can look back and say that Abby worked with integrity, fairness and caring. And I'd like to think that even the people that I've had run-ins with would believe that I operated in a fair manner. My reasons for running, I guess, were I associate with a lot of business people and hear that feedback about things that we need to change, and they can't do it because they're running successful businesses. And I'm just in a blessed position that my family said, yeah, let's go. So we're in 100%.
Thanks, Kirsty. That's a really good question. I think it goes to the heart of why we're here tonight. Probably come across as a fairly hard-nosed, tough businessman to most people tonight. An accountant worries about the money before people, but let me assure you, the people in this room that know me, and I can see a few of you out here that have known me for a long, long time, that my core values are about really centre around honesty, decency, reliability. If I say I'm going to do something, I take it personally if I can't. I think I've had very good parents who raised me in that regard, to always do the right thing by people. And there's a saying in the Bible that do unto others. That's one I like to live my life by. Why am I doing this? Because when we decided many years ago, my wife Roz and I, that we'd raise our 4 children here. And when I go to Brisbane now and see my kids on the coast, people often praise my kids and they praise my nephews and nieces, and I think it still comes back to what this region's given them. They've had a wonderful lifestyle here, been well educated, and I can't help but feel that I owe something to the region, give something back so that future generations can enjoy what my kids have had. In addition to that, you know, I'm really tired of seeing all my sister's friends leave and go to the Sunshine Coast to live. She's lost 10 friends from St John's School in Kingaroy, who've all moved to the same coast. Husbands have gone with them over the last 2 years. She's a school teacher. And I've seen her in tears at the fact that she's got no friends here anymore. She's now contemplating moving to the Sunshine Coast herself. I had a really close friend of mine who was a businesswoman in Kingaroy. She moved down to Montville to live, and she came back to Kingaroy. And she said to me, you know, she said, there's a dark cloud over this place. And I said, no way, I'm not going to accept that. There isn't a dark cloud. We've got wonderful people here, salt of the earth people. And, you know, every time I've been, you know, struggling with things in life, and, you know, like most of us, I haven't had an easy run. I've had challenges to face in my life, like we all have. But I get comfort from the sense of belonging that I find living in South Burnett. I love the fact that when I go to the Woolies, it takes me an hour to get a bottle of milk. Because everyone wants to say, go here and have a chat. Go and live the coastal Brisbane, let me tell you, it's a lonely place. So I just feel really indebted to this place for everything it's given me. Thank you.
Once again, it goes back to where I come from in business and living and being in the South Burnett, so you've probably heard my story, so it doesn't hear it again.
No, just keep going out, Tony.
So my core values, I've always been a person to want to help people. So if anybody's sought in trouble or sought information, I've always done my best to try and push them in the direction that I think that they will find the best answers. I'm empathetic, so I understand people when they're speaking to me. I can relate to people up here, down there. And the region, yeah, I don't know how to so I'm intelligent, I can take issues on, sort through them, work out what's the point in all of them, and find the answers that I need to make it happen. So I was raised to be helpful. I'm the eldest of 6 kids. You just get in, and probably the biggest thing that I've ever done, not being up the front too much, I've always been the person who's been down the back and just getting the job done. Because in the end, getting the job done is what needs to happen.
Thank you, Tony. Right, look, we're running short of time. Anyone else?
I've got just one.
Yes, up the back.
Just one quick one, like not long-winded answer, please. Just one sentence. What, with the new candidates, what would be your single most pressing issue or something you would want to change in your term? The thing that you hold most dear, that why you're doing it, what you want to change, what you want to do, in one sentence.
Right, Tony, you can go first. Then you will last.
Establish an over 50s village so we can hold families together here, and give people who are ageing as they are in our population an opportunity to be a part of their region for the rest of their lives.
Thank you, Tony. That's about the length of time you want, so you
Yep, perfect. You're gonna need a beer.
I'll have a run.
Brett.
Yeah, mine is to take the financial burden off ratepayers, to particularly focusing on pensioners, a significant part of our population, and farmers, by structural reform to our rating system, and by getting our fair share of government funding.
So hopefully cut rates.
Cap
If
rates.
possible.
I'd like to think that we can cap rates.
Instead of.
I believe, I've studied the budget for hours, and I believe that there's scope in there to do so. But that won't happen overnight. But I'd certainly like to see that we cap rates. And I'd like to think that in time, perhaps in the latter part of the term, the back end of the term, before your term, that we can then look to start to provide some, yes, potentially, hopefully, some concessional rates arrangements in place, particularly for pensioners and farmers. I spoke to Rosie today from Boston. Her rates have gone up 24.7% in the last term council, 4 years. If you've got multiple properties, you pay multiple rates, right, multiple levies and so forth. And let me tell you, it's hurting our real estate industry, it's hurting our residential construction industry. Particularly I've got 200 clients as farmers, and let me tell you, I see their profit and loss statements every year, and our rates have done that. I'm not blaming the council for it.
What do you look at me for?
It's a symptom of the fact that I don't believe that our region's being looked after by government, not getting a fair share of funding, and the rate burden's falling back on the ratepayers. It's hit me in the pocket. If I could do one thing in 4 years and look back on my time, it would be to do with that. Because I believe that'll have a flow-on effect to our economy and to the quality of life of our people, particularly our pensioners and our farmers.
Have a go?
Yeah, mine's rate stabilisation. So it's just, I don't think that we're going to be able to reduce rates. I just don't think it's possible if you look through over the budget. But rate stabilisation, so that we don't always look to the ratepayer as the solution to our problems, and we look at other avenues.
Can I just make something? Certainly, Keith.
Mine is to grow the economy of the area. If we look back over our shoulder and continue to do as we've always done, we're going to continue to get as we've always got. There is a new opportunity that sits out there in front of us, and that opportunity is through agriculture, through the energy hub that we have, through tourism. They are 3 principal ways in which we can change the focus of this area, but we have to band together and make that work. Water is the ingredient. Whether we have new households or not, we need more water to secure even the households or the urban population throughout the entirety of our region. We are in a desperate situation. That's why this water feasibility study is so acute. I drove this agenda for water going back last election when there were whispers around as to the life term of the Toronto Power Station. I wasn't going to be accused of a mayor as sitting back and doing nothing, so I drove this issue of water so that we could grow agriculture, so that if at that time when the power station is not there, we have put a much stronger emphasis on an area that we know produces agriculture just so well and create the new jobs in that space so that we don't, fall into a black hole X years up the track.
Okay, now, yeah, just there.
You have great visions, you're just the mayors. How do you get the CEO and the other 13 managers underneath him to sing your tune so that when somebody rings the council to complain about a burst water pipe, there is action immediately? The culture needs fixing. How can you do that?
I think that's a bit unfair on the other three.
Oh, I'm happy to answer that, Barry.
No, I'll answer it for you, Keith.
That was
It's not
Brett.
Keith's
Not
Brett.
me. I'm happy to answer that, Mario.
Yeah, but I
look,
mean, you've got to have, all four have to have some sort of experience how to deal with addressing
yeah,
the
all right,
culture
well, I'll
of
let
a
it go,
leadership.
but what I've found after comparing what's happened now to what happened when I was on the council with Carter and Cratzy as mayors, if they said jump, the staff said how high. And it was made abundantly clear by two, one a Labor bloke and one was Chris Afuli from the LNP. They changed the law, they changed the rules to say the council laws are the bosses.
So is that true now? Like
That is true now, but I don't know as if that's ever been so.
Yeah, but you're not going for it. Sorry, I don't mean disrespect. I need to hear the four
All right,
people
well,
there.
I just thought we'd save a bit of time by.
Well, look, the situation is that there is to be no interference in operational issues from council laws, even the mayor. The only person in the hierarchy that an order can be given to is the chief executive officer. That's the only person. And you've all heard of Belcarra. I mean, the headlines and the news is full of information at times of mayors who've been challenged by the independent assessor. There are complaints by the score that are put in against councillors for their indiscretions in terms of, conflict of interest and a whole range and raft of things. The Belcarra legislation just continues to, you might say, impose on us as councillors in terms of stepping into the space that you mentioned. We are very fortunate that we have a chief executive officer at this point of time who believes, as I do and my councillors do, that you guys are our customers, right? When you go into a shop and you receive poor service, you're not likely to go back again willingly too often. The chief executive officer that we have at this point of time adopts the principle that each of you as ratepayers are customers. You deserve the best service and the best attention that can possibly be given. In a circumstance such as you have mentioned, Marietta, there is a formal process through council. The fact if you lodge a complaint and it doesn't happen immediately, there'll always be a reason why that doesn't happen. So don't be that despairing because it doesn't happen the minute that, or well, as soon after you complain. But it's an operational issue. It distresses us as councillors when we hear these sorts of comments coming back, because it is not our will nor our wish, but I as the mayor cannot go out to that section of the council and demand, despite what Barry says Carter and Kratzman did. That's in an era that's past. We live under the current legislation, the Belcarra issues, and none of us are that prepared to spend the rest of our lives answering the court systems, or even, in fact, spending time in prison.
So your main connection is with the CEO. So the CEO speaks to the rest of the people.
We have a really good working relationship with the chief executive officer and the seniors. There's a view around that it's the chief executive officer and the seniors who make all the decisions in council. That is a load of codswallop. That does not happen when it comes to issues of strategy, issues of policy. matters that, you know, form the culture within the direction council is taking, that happens by the decision of my 6 councillors and myself. Yes, we accept advice from the Chief Executive Officer and the seniors, but they do not make the decision for us.
Okay, thank you, Keith.
Okay, Abigail, do you wish to answer the question?
So whenever I have run for council, I've sat or spent time with everybody that I think is going to be on my team, and definitely I've made time to spend with Mark Pitt and made sure that we can have a proper working relationship before I thought that I would be ready for the role. However, I recognise that when you send in a complaint and then if you sometimes get a response from council, often the person that responds to you says, I don't know what to do with your complaint, and that's extremely frustrating. I think for everybody, you think you've taken a channel and you're not responded to in a way that you think is satisfactory. I guess my view of that, or how I would like to rectify that, I guess, is a timer on, you know, how long it's taken to either get back to you, and then you know, I guess some KPIs in place to say, are we achieving at this level or not?
Fred?
Yeah, thanks, Mary. That's a really good question because it's one that I had to confront before I made the decision to do this. I come from the business world where I make decisions on my practice and what I decide gets done. Having said that, we run a very consultative practice with our staff. You know, we're a team and people, you know, love working there. This is a whole different world for me. Keith's right, Belcara released, Belcara 2 really puts the screws on us in terms of our focus on policy and not operations. But, so what I did, Mario, was I spent 3 months before Christmas travelling around Queensland, meeting with other mayors and meeting with other councils about what they do and what they intend to deal with this issue. And what I found, for example, Fraser Coast, they have a performance monitoring system. Every month at a council meeting, a report's provided on how many requests were received, how many complaints were received, and how much time was taken to respond to those. That's reported as part of the reporting regime that goes to the council. It's also given to the public. So there's a reporting regime. So I'm picking up on what Abigail was saying about key performance indicators, performance standards. In our practice, we've always had a performance standard that we always return a phone call within 24 hours. That's been in place for 20 years, and I think we've probably got about a 91% strike rate on that. And I think it's those sort of performance standards that we need to put in place. Now, I'm going to call a spade here tonight, and there'll be councillors, I know there are councillors who are frustrated with the time that it's taken to get requests dealt with, to get complaints dealt with. Quite frankly, in my view, it's not good enough. One of the major reasons I stood for council, because I have had so many people come into my office, my clients who are frustrated with the time it takes to get things done in the administration of our council. Not too many complaints about the councillors, but complaints about the bureaucracy in our council. And that is a post-amalgamation issue that has evolved over the last 12 years. There needs to be a greater emphasis on service, ratepayers are customers, residents are customers, and there needs to be a focus on service. That leadership comes from the top. The mayor sets that tone in how the mayor mixes, moves through the community on a regular basis and sees herself or himself as a servant of the community. If the mayor doesn't do it, you can't expect the staff to do it. The other thing, Marietta, is you've got to have a really good relationship with the CEO. And I think importantly is to take a positive view on it. I would love to see every single council staff member walking down the street like my accounting practice staff do, feeling proud to wear the uniform, knowing that they're respected by the community for the work that they do and appreciated. Quite frankly, I think at the moment, a lot of them are scared.
Thanks, Fred. Tony?
I really can't add any more to what's been said. These guys have pretty much covered how you deal with the conflict in an organisation.
Okay, any other questions? Yes, Anne.
I've just got one quick question for Brett, which he confused me a little bit in his speech when he said that he wants to ensure all media will have equal access to council. I'm just wondering, does he believe that that's not the case now?
Yeah, thanks, Anne. Certainly not. I've got no background in terms of council interaction with the media. So that was really, I I suppose for me moving forward, what I'm suggesting is that I would be making, in my office, once I took out my office, not about council or the councillors, but I did say from my office, so that I would be making sure that, for example, after a council meeting, I'm available to the media to give a press conference for everybody. So it's no reflection on what's happening now. I'm in no position to make any statements as to what's happening now because I really don't know. But it's my intention, it's a forward-looking comment, not a historical